We begin with East Africa today. A devastating cyclone, Mgezani, has ripped through Madagascar, killing at least 38 people, flattening neighborhoods and displacing hundreds of thousands. The deadly cyclone tore off roofs, led to the collapse of buildings and pushed several districts into darkness. Authorities say nearly 75% of the landfall city has been damaged or destroyed. And the true scale of devastation is still emerging. Here's our report.
Cyclone Gazani made landfall this week, late Tuesday night, unleashing destructive winds, torrential rain and storm surges across eastern Madagascar. The storm struck Toamasina, a vital port city of 400,000 people, leaving behind scenes of devastation. Homes were flattened, power lines snapped, roads disappeared under floodwaters. Entire communities were plunged into darkness. Madagascar's Disaster Management Agency says at least 38 people have died, dozens are seriously injured, and over 12,000 people have been affected or displaced. Residents describe it as a night of terror. Many families hid inside their home for 6 hours as violent winds battered their doors and windows before glass shattered and floodwaters rushed inside. Placed said the storm was monstrous. The cyclone arrived just 11 days after Cyclone Fitia, which killed at least 14 people and displaced 31,000 more. A brutal reminder of how frequently extreme weather is now striking the region. Now, meteorologists say Gazani may be one of the most intense cyclones ever recorded in this part of the Indian Ocean during the satellite era, rivaling storms that killed hundreds in the past. But scientists warn this is no longer rare. Rising ocean temperatures, driven by human-induced climate change, are fueling stronger and wetter tropical cyclones. Warmer air holds more moisture, leading to heavier rainfall, while higher sea levels worsen coastal flooding. Madagascar, one of the world's poorest countries, is also among the most climate vulnerable. Many families live in fragile housing, lack storm-resistant infrastructure, and depend on agriculture that is increasingly disrupted by extreme weather. The result, every cyclone becomes a humanitarian disaster. Authorities say nearly 75% of Toamasina's infrastructure is damaged, including roads, power grids, health facilities, and supply routes. Food distribution has been disrupted, medical access is limited, fuel supplies are running low. The government is now appealing for urgent international assistance, warning that the scale of destruction exceeds national capacity.
Out of compassion and solidarity with the Malagasy people who are facing the cyclone, I have come here to cope with the impact of the cyclone alongside the Malagasy people, especially in the Atsinanana region.
Aid agencies fear that as Gazani moves into the Mozambique Channel, it could regain strength, threatening communities already battered by recent floods that displaced more than 700,000 people in Mozambique. Experts say this relentless cycle of destruction highlights a deeper global crisis. Island nations like Madagascar contribute almost nothing to global emissions, yet suffer some of the worst climate impacts. Climate scientists warn that without rapid global cuts in greenhouse gas emissions, storms like Gazani will only grow stronger, wetter, and more frequent. At the same time, vulnerable countries urgently need climate financing, not just for disaster relief, but for resilient housing, early warning systems, and climate-proof infrastructure, because without urgent action, today's disaster could soon become tomorrow's norm. For Madagascar, recovery might take years. For the planet, the window to act is closing fast.
And finally, a massive sinkhole in Indonesia's Aceh province is swallowing farmlands. Now spanning nearly 3 hectares, the crater continues to widen. It is threatening crops, homes, and farmers' livelihoods. Take a look at this, and thank you very much for watching.
We really hope that the government will provide us with compensation for our losses or find us more land because all of ours has been destroyed and we can no longer plant anything.
For coffee, chili peppers, and several other commodities, we have collected all the data and submitted it to the central government. Hopefully, technical guidelines for handling the affected communities will arrive soon.
The shooting by an ICE officer in Minneapolis last month sparked immediate protests. At the time, DHS said the officer fired in self-defense, hitting one suspect in the leg after they said he was attacked by multiple men.
What we saw was 3 individuals weaponize shovels and brooms and attack an ICE officer that had to defend himself.
But tonight, a stinging rebuke of 2 ICE officers from the acting director of the agency who says they appear to have lied about the shooting of that Venezuelan man. Todd Lyons saying a joint review by ICE and the Department of Justice of video evidence has revealed that sworn testimony provided by 2 separate officers appears to have made untruthful statements, adding the unnamed officers have been immediately placed on administrative leave pending the completion of a thorough internal investigation and may face termination of employment as well as potential criminal prosecution. Julio Cesar Sosa Solis, who was shot in the leg, and Alfredo Alejandro Alhorna had been charged with assaulting federal officers. Tonight, those charges have been dropped. Tonight, an attorney for Sosa Solis says he is cooperating with an investigation into the shooting and, quote, determined to seek justice against the officer.
Syria has taken control of another base from U.S. forces. Days after Syria assumed control of another facility near the Jordan-Iraq border, the Syrian Defense Ministry said it took control of the Al-Shaddadi base in northeast from withdrawing U.S. forces. In the Syrian Defense Ministry, it said that forces of Syrian Arab Army have taken over the Al-Shaddadi military base in the Hasakeh countryside following coordination with the American side. The U.S. forces were operating as part of the international coalition against the Islamic State group and had been stationed at the base outside the town with the same name. More recently, on Sunday, the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that Washington is pleased with the trajectory in Syria, which has launched talks with Kurdish minority groups. Speaking to the press in Slovakia, Rubio emphasized that a deal between Syrian authorities and the Kurdish minority must now be implemented.
But we think it's headed in a positive direction, even though it's been tested. There's been some difficult days. Frankly, there's been some days that have been, very concerning. But we like the trajectory. We have to keep it on that trajectory. We've got good agreements in place. The key now is implementation, and we'll be very involved in that regard.
A de facto separate Kurdish state was established in the country's northeast during Syria's civil war. Rubio also defended the administration's embrace of al-Shara, even against the former Kurdish allies, by arguing that Washington faced a difficult decision in Syria.
We had 2 choices in Syria. Choice number 1 was to let the place fall apart into 18 different pieces. Long-term civil war, instability, mass migration, playground for terrorists, ISIS running all over the place, Iran getting back in. That was choice number 1. Choice number 2 is to try to see if it was possible to work with these interim authorities and President.
Syrian leaders and Kurdish officials announced an agreement to integrate Kurdish forces and autonomous areas of Syria into the Syrian state in January. The deal that took place in Damascus was reached after months of deadlock and armed clashes between the two sides. The United States had supported Kurdish forces in their fight against the Islamic State jihadist group starting in 2014. But after the overthrow of Bashar al-Assad at the end of 2024, the President Donald Trump's administration backed Syrian leader Ahmad al-Shara. Amidst the American withdrawal, the U.S. Central Command on Saturday said its forces had struck more than 30 Islamic State targets in Syria this month. A CENTCOM statement said the airstrikes between February 3rd and 12th hit Islamic State infrastructure and weapon storage targets.
This breaking and developing stories from Iran, and the country's Chief of Armed Forces Major General Abdolrahim Mousavi has threatened the U.S. with a lasting lesson. Mousavi criticized U.S. President Donald Trump's statement on the ongoing negotiations with Iran. He questioned Trump's contradictory rhetoric, where the American president keeps alternating between pushing for negotiations and then threatening a war. Mousavi said that if Trump intends to wage a war, why does he talk about negotiations or talks? The general said that Trump's statement is reckless and not benefiting or befitting a president. Mousavi added that if it does not indeed come down to war, the Iranian army was ready to give the U.S. a lasting lesson. Mousavi says that the outcome of any war with Iran would ensure that Trump will no longer be able to bully the world. Trump has been pressuring Iran to negotiate a deal to prevent the country from ever developing nuclear weapons. The first round of negotiations took place in Oman earlier this month. The second round is scheduled for next week. They will take place in Geneva, Switzerland. However, Oman is still taking the role of a host. Even as talks are underway, the U.S. has deployed a second aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, to West Asia. It will join the USS Abraham Lincoln, which is already stationed there.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that he fully supports Iran's sovereignty and security. He sent his message to Iran's new president, Masoud Pezeshkian. Putin said that Russia and Iran are friendly neighbors and are strong partners. But why does this matter right now? Well, because the United States is increasing its military power in that region. US President Donald Trump has hinted at the regime change of Iran. And at the same time, America has sent a large naval force to Middle East. One of those warships is the USS Grenard R. Ford, one of the biggest aircraft carriers in the world. When a ship like that moves, it sends a signal. It tells the world that America is ready, and now Russia is also answering with its own signals. Putin's words are not small, and when they say the total support, it means Russia is standing firmly with Iran. And this is not just about the friendship, it is about strategy. It is about Iran have grown closer in the recent years, and it says much more about that. They have worked together in Syria and many other parts of the country. They have traded more, they have also faced Western sanctions. So, what does this mean for the region? Well, first, the tensions are rising, and Middle East is already facing conflicts in many areas. When big powers like US and Russia show the strength at the same time, risk of a larger crisis grows. Second being, this shows a clear divide. On one side, the United States and allies, and the other side, Russia backing Iran. Some experts believe that this could change the balance between the power of the region, and others say that this is more about the political messaging. But one thing is certain. The world is watching closely. But the question is US preparing for a pressure tactics, or is Russia trying to block American influence? And how will Iran respond to it? Well, for now, there is no direct clashes, but it shows that military moves faster and often comes before the major decisions. Well, USS Gernald R. Ford actually carries dozens of jets, fighter jets. Russia, on the other hand, has strengthened its defense with Iran. And you know why? Both sides want to show that they are so serious about it. This is about local issue. This is oil, global trade, and international security that could be affected if the tensions grow further. And now, will this remain a show of power, or the world is heading towards a bigger conflict? Tell us what you think.
I will not hide from you that I express my skepticism of any deal with Iran because, frankly, Iran is reliable on one thing. They lie and they cheat. But I said that if a deal is to be reached, it should have several components that we believe are important not only for the security of Israel, but for the security of the world. There shall be no enrichment capability, not stopping the enrichment process, but dismantle the equipment and the infrastructure that allows you to enrich in the first place. I will not hide from you that I express my skepticism of any deal with Iran because, frankly, Iran is reliable on one thing. They lie and they cheat. But I said that if a deal is to be reached, it should have several components that we believe are important not only for the security of Israel, but for the security of the world. The United States, the region, the world. The first is that there shall be no enrichment capability, not stopping the enrichment process, but dismantle the equipment and the infrastructure that allows you to enrich in the first place. We dismantled about 150 kilometers of 500 kilometers of tunnels. We have to complete the job. That means also that you can't hide weapons labs or other facilities that they use to rearm themselves, regroup and reform, which they're trying to do. We're giving the president's plan a chance. With the questions of ballistic missiles, there's an MTCR. So we can afford to phase out the financial component of the military aid that we're receiving. And I propose a 10-year drawdown to zero. Now, in the 3 years that remain in the present memorandum of understanding, and another 7 years, draw it down to zero. Israel will support itself and does, just as we fight for ourselves. At the same time, we want to move with the United States from aid to partnership.
תורה. אל תפגעו בבני תורה, זה החיים של עם ישראל, אתם לא מבינים את זה.
אני